tree. And I gotta ask you, do you have pesky AP mid laners in your lane? Well, use the ultimate counter champion, Kassadin. Once you hit level 16, you have auto win, and you should be able to kill them even before that. Before we start, I will ask you to like the video if you will like something later, and subscribe if you would want more content. Now, let's drop the Kassadin facts. I got two options I can recommend. First one is if you feel really confident and matchup you are going against is not so high threat early levels, you can go for Electrocute. Because Kassadin does have a kind of easy way to proc it once you have your level 6, but even before that, you have safe ways to proc your Electrocute, and you can get some dominance in the lane which you wouldn't normally have. For secondary runes in first three, you want to take Taste of Blood because you want to be able to trade. Eyeball Collection since it gives you basically most raw stats out of the three. And Ravenous Hunter because you will probably be roaming but you're using your TP a lot. Ultimate Hunter does not reduce it to some great extent, and well, in, in, Ingenious Hunter, I haven't seen this rune like 1 year before once. So healing from your TP it is. And for secondary runes in this tree you have kind of a lot of options. First is one I like to call You Can Touch Me, because if you take this into matchup like Sylas or Katarina, you will have that bone plating for their burst, and overgrowth I use mostly because I want to get a bit tankier with Kassadin. He is kind of building like this, that kind of sustain mage who is trying to stay alive a bit longer than he should. And for small runes, in this tree I would always go for two adaptive forces and defense. And that is everything for Electrocute. Then we got Fleet Footwork page, which is going to be used most of the time, and I can recommend it if you haven't played Sylas. Basically, it will allow you to stay high on health in lane, make your laning a bit easier, and because of this you can probably hit your spikes faster. You will be using Presence of Mind, which is extremely strong on Kassadin since you will be using a lot of your mana. And then you will take Legend Tenacity since you don't really use neither of these two. And Coup de Grace because Kassadin is an assassin, and once you go low you have very high chance of actually dying. And for secondary rune, you will take Domination with Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter I was talking about. You can also, well, first small runes, then I will talk about it. Uh, you can in this page take your ability haste because you are not trying for that early extra damage. So this is really strong on Kassadin because having all your cooldowns lower is always strong on almost any champion. And then AP and always magic resist because you don't want to go Kassadin into AD matchups. And because I, as always, forgot, for the Electrocute page you can replace result with, for example, Presence of Mind and that Coup de Grace. So you're playing more to the part of the game where you're not stuck in your lane and waiting for your jungle to hopefully come and help you. That is going to be everything for runes. I'll see you with everything else in the game. Okay, let's start with summoner spells. First off, you will want to take Ignite because it's really strong really strong spell, and it's really universal. And then I usually tend to go Teleport a lot because it just has so much use, and you want to have as much farm as possible so you can reach all your spikes as soon as possible. But usually, if your team doesn't have another ignite, for example, support goes for exhaust, I tend to run it because I believe that having at least one ignite in a team is really important. But apart from that, we can go straight ahead and look at items. First, if you have that I believe in myself mindset, you can go for Dark Seal with Refillable Potion and hopefully get those skills and start dominating even before you hit level 6. But it won't be so significant. If you don't, I usually would recommend only, well, two options. First is to go for Tear of the Goddess, which I think is fine, but it's not as strong as it was before. So I usually would recommend going for basic, boring Dorn's Ring and health potions instead. So you get some of those health, you have easier time farming, and that is basically it for starting items. Now, what you do want to rush, because that is kind of set, is your mythic item. Again, I believe that there are two options and one that kind of works. First off, Everfrost is, in my opinion, the best item for Kassadin right now because with that utility, and also I like my Kassadin chunky. So this gives you health, gives you mana, gives you ability power, ability haste. It's really strong and increases the ability power of rest of your items. Uh, with rest of your items. So Everfrost is, in my opinion, really strong, and with that active, it basically allows you to kill almost anyone who isn't a tank, which you probably will too. Other option is going for Ludens, which will instead give you possibly magic penetration. So if enemy team is really squishy, you can go for this instead. And if basically if they don't have mobility and are squishy, so you have, for example, top ADC, which is happen quite popular lately, you can go for this instead of Everfrost. But I just like Everfrost more. And last option, which isn't necessarily so powerful but works, is Leandries, which are good against the tanky matchups, but it does not give you so much utility as the other two. So basically, the order in I would buy them, unless there are those special situations I was talking about, is Everfrost, Ludens, and Leandries. Then your second item is a bit interesting. If enemy team has a lot of AD apart from your mid laner, which I'm not sure if I would pick Kassadin into that, and you always pick Kassadin into something, you can try to rush Seeker's Arms Guard and then slowly start. Well, you usually will want to rush it if they have AD. Then for boots, you basically have two options: Mercury Threads or Sorcerer Shoes. Depends on your and what how you feel. If you think that they do have a lot of CC and that you will need that additional magic resist, you can go for Mercury Threads. I like Sorcerers a bit more. Then obviously you want to finish your Zonias. But before that, you will also want to start to build your Archangel stuff, which again, you should never build this as your first item, since it does not give you almost anything early. Even though your ultimate scales with maximum mana, it is not the best, basically. So you usually will want to buy Seeker's Arm Guard and then rush your Archangels. After that, you will want to buy your Zonias. And after that, you want to buy your Zonias. And after that, it depends again on you. If they have a lot of healing, you can go for Morellonomicon. It is real. It is good if you are ahead, and once you start rolling on Kassadin, you probably won't stop. You can go and buy Magi's. If you already bought Dark Seal at the start of the game, you always will want to go for it. So that is one option, and another option that can replace either Morellonomicon or Magi's is Cosmic Drive, which will give you that ability haste and move speed, which again, really powerful, makes you a bit chunkier, gives you all you want. So basically this is a basic build on Kassadin. But enough for items. Let's have a look at this rip-off character abilities. First off, we got your passive, which is actually extremely simple but really powerful. The most important part of this is that you gain 15% reduced magic damage. Now this is not a magic resist, you just gain flat 15% less damage from those sources, which is strong and is why Kassadin is such a counterpick. And also we are ghosted, so you will have quite easy time hitting minions. Well, not easy, but easier than normally. And that's it. This is a really simple passive. Then we got your Q, which is a point and click ability. You can target nearest enemy. Nearest. You can target an enemy. And once you press it, you will gain a magic shield, which is scaling with your ability power. So it's a really good reactive ability since the shield is instantaneous. Once the casting time is completed, you gain the shield. And also you will silence the target hit, meaning that when you're fighting against, for example, Katarina, Kassadin is one of those champions who don't necessarily have to walk away from her because he can just stop it on one anytime he wants. And another thing about your Q is that it has quite slow travel time, so you can usually try to use this to poke your enemy if they are under tower, which probably should not happen until you are level 6, because if you get ganked, you will die 90% of the time. So once you are level 6 and you got enemy pushed under their tower, you can press your Q, walk away, it will hit them, and you are fine. And then we got your W, which is the sole reason you need so much mana, because with its giant mana cost of 1 mana, W is a strong auto attack reset ability, which, well, it's an auto attack reset. Your next auto attack deals additional damage, and most importantly, it refunds your mana. If you hit a basic minion, it is greatly reduced. If you hit a champion, it increases up to 30% of your mana, which in the late game is real powerful since you will be using a lot. But in lane, it usually works just as an auto attack reset. Next, we got your E, which requires you to use, well, you need 6 abilities to be casted nearby before you can use your E. The funny thing is that your E is area of effect damage with in this giant cone, which also slows the targets by 50%. And thing is that it has extremely low cooldown. If you have a look on, yeah, it doesn't even show. But even on first level, this is a really short cooldown ability. So if you're fighting against someone who uses his abilities a lot, and you do too, for example, with your W, which costs 1 mana, uh, you will be able to use your Q quite often. And it's really worth using because it's a really strong ability. It mostly shines in team fight where getting 6 abilities is almost nothing. So let's look at with E. And lastly, the Kassadin's personality, his ultimate, which is basically a slower damaging flash. You can teleport to any of the area around you and deal damage in this giant circle. With every cast, the mana cost is doubled. Yeah, the mana cost is doubled, and also you gain additional damage. So as you can see on second cast, it was 509. Now it is 648, and on and right now it's 786, and right now it's 900. 900 with one cast. It costs 640 mana, but you get your W, which will refund it really fast. So this is your personality. It allows you to go over, I think, every wall in the game, and it basically has a bit longer range than Flash does. The cool thing about this is that you can delete champions who don't know about you, and it is a reason why you should be keeping a lot of vision around the map as Kassadin. Because let's say, for example, that some really trust some really smart ADC is walking around to get your red buff, well, you can just ult on them and delete them. Not many champions can do this, but Kassadin can, and Kassadin is strong. Also, uh, this is a bit of tip more towards the laning. If you are getting to the lane, I usually recommend using it only once or twice, at least on early levels, because you will get that damage which you can use to kill someone, but it won't cost so much that you will be useless once you get to lane. And that is basically it for abilities. For combos, it's really universal how you use them, but what I would usually recommend is to start with your R and ultimate. So for example, if you are further away, you wanna start with your R, then you want to E, then W, no, auto attack, W, and then Q. You usually want to Q last because it is that has that extended range, so you can reach your enemies if they are further away from you. And right after you cast your Q, you can Rift Walk on them. So basic combo would look probably something like this. You are an assassin and you deal a lot of burst damage. Other option is to usually you want to poke your opponents in a wave on level 2. Oh yeah, skill order. I will talk about it in a second. You usually will go for the W auto attack WQ, which is also very strong and not so much combos, but utility things. If you can use your E and R with flash. R is a bit less useful, but basically E is E flash, which is just finisher from longer distance when your R is, for example, on cooldown in early levels. You just wanna do this. And with your R, it basically works. You need to R and then flash. Well, you need to flash and then R. Because if you do it the other way, first of this is how to do it correctly. And if you do it the other way, this is what will happen. You will waste your flash. First off, R has longer distance. And because it teleports you to a set point in the area around you, you will basically flash to that exact point and then you will appear there with your R. So if you really want to catch up someone who is far away, you want to flash R, but never waste your flash trying to do what almost every ability with flash does. And yeah, that's basically it for combos. Now, towards laning, you usually will want to stay in your part of the lane at least until level 6, and probably like once or twice attack engage on enemy. If you have electrocute, you can try to engage a bit earlier to utilize that rune. But most of the time, once you hit level 6, that's time where you want to come in. So basically, you hit level R, you want to get your enemy towards you, you want to let them push, and then once they make that mistake, you want to finish them off and start roaming. You do have a quite easy way to, well, oh my god, you have an easy way to push waves once you have your ultimate, because you can ult on the minions, then E them, and you have really easy wave clear with that. So you usually want to start roaming. I recommend going to bot lane since most of the squishy champions are there. But you got a lot of options. For the matchups, first off, you work well with teammates that the Kassadin doesn't necessarily have dream teammates, but you want teammates that use their abilities a lot. So for example, bot lane is Ezreal because he will be using his Q almost all the time, so your E will be up almost all the time. Next, for matchups, he is really good against immobile mages. So for example, something like Orianna, that is probably my favorite matchup against Kassadin. Well, when I'm playing Kassadin, because she does have her slow and things, but I got superior mobility. So even if she is using phase rush and is really fast, you will be able to catch up to her. You have that burst damage, you can get rid of her. AP assassins are a tiny bit bigger problem, and I'm gonna turn the minions off. Uh, are a bit bigger problem because they can possibly kill you before level 6. Something like, for example, Akali will probably be able to kill you if you don't play safe. And basically, my most banned champions on Kassadin, it's do you trust enemy mid laner? Because from my experience, worst matchup into Kassadin is Zed, who has high mobility, much uh, well, who has high mobility, is much stronger than you before level 6, and once he does have that level 6, you don't have a proper way to kill him. You can try to rift walk on him, but he has his W, so he can always run away. And yes, you are relatively faster since he can use his W only once, but that distance is usually enough for him to get to safety. And Zeds usually tend to run uh, uh, items which will give him a bit more speed and mobility, so you won't really be able to fight him. And also he's full AD apart from his passive, and you don't want to run 15% reduced magic damage because of one ability. But if you believe that enemy is gonna ban Zed, which happens a lot lately since Zed is really popular, you can go and ban one of the Holy Trio without shirt and with sword. Now I'm talking about the Wind Brothers and Mr. Viego. Because again, they are mostly full AD and are really tough matchups for you because first off, they have a lot of mobility, so it's hard for you to rift walk on them, but mostly it's because they can kill you faster than you can them. And that's mostly it for matchups. I personally would recommend trying Kassadin if you happen to get into a game against AP mid laner, because he's is kind of hard, but it's mostly about decisions. And I just like this thing a lot. One thing I do want to point out is that if we're talking stylistics, Riot's known for making a lot of characters rip off of something else. But literally making Darth Vader, because he even has that sword, he is a bit too much. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and battery out.